I'm Shannon Jackson, your host of a Healthy Push podcast. I struggled with anxiety, panic disorder, and agoraphobia for 15 years. Everything used to be hard for me. Even just driving 5 minutes from my house used to feel impossible. But now I absolutely live for travel and adventure, and I experience lots of peace and joy. I've not only reclaimed my life, but I've helped hundreds of others to do the same. Here, we stop managing anxiety and instead we create a healthy relationship with it. One where you say goodbye to the anxious thoughts, symptoms, panic attacks, and fears, and you actually live your life. Forget complicated strategies, quick fixes, or the same old hacks you've heard 100 times before. Each week, I'll bring you simple, actionable advice and honest conversations that lead to real, long-term healing. You aren't just an anxious person, my friend. There are reasons why you're struggling with anxiety, and these are things you can fix and heal from. And this is where that journey begins. Welcome. You're right where you're meant to be. All right. It's a Q&A episode with Annie, and I'm so excited because it's been a while since Annie and I have connected. So we were just chatting a bunch before we hit record. But Annie, welcome back to Healthy Push Podcast.
Yes, thank you for having me. I know it's been too long. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, it's like 20 minutes before we actually hit the record button because it's like, what's going on with you? What's going on with you? And like life updates. And it's so nice because this too always just feels like catch up conversation, like a nice fun chat. But this conversation, I don't know, I don't want it to feel heavy. I think it might feel a bit heavier than our typical Q&As because we're going to talk about some questions that are a little bit tough, right? If people are asking these questions, you're typically in a space where things feel really hard, that like maybe you're in the thick of it in your recovery and you're feeling like, am I going to get better? Like, what am I doing? Why aren't I getting better? Like, is recovery not possible? So we're going to talk about all of it. Like, what if I never get better? And am I going to get better? And can you actually recover? And so these are some of the hardest questions, I think, about recovery, but some really good things that we can dive into that will actually give you some hope and some motivation and just like probably a gentle nudge to take some healthy action. So it'll be good.
Definitely. Yeah, I think this is going to be really great. And yeah, they might seem like some heavy questions, but I think it'll be good.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so start us off, Annie. Let's do question one.
All right. So the first question is, what if I never get better? And what if I never feel normal again?
Oh, right. I think these two kind of go hand in hand. Like, you just want to feel, quote, normal again. And not normal, right, means I don't want to be feeling anxious all the time. Like, I don't want to be experiencing the symptoms and the panic attacks and all the things. So, this, of course, is such a common fear. Like, what if I never get better? And I had these same exact thoughts, probably honestly daily at some points in my recovery, because you really feel like you're in it. You can't see outside of it. Like there's no light sometimes at the end of that tunnel. And you're just like, maybe this is just the rest of my life. So I think something that really helped me was realizing that this getting better didn't mean never feeling anxious or like not feeling anxious. Cause I think we do this a lot where we equate like I'm getting better to I'm feeling less or I'm not feeling anxious. And that's not really a great indicator of healing. And so I kind of say you got to throw that idea away of like getting better means I'm feeling less anxious or anxiety's popping up less or I'm experiencing less symptoms or less panic. Like there is so much feeling when you're working to recover. So I think the thing that really helped me was realizing like I had to build a life where anxiety wasn't at the forefront. Like it wasn't controlling me and making all the decisions. And it was taking so much uncomfortable action and realizing like there's going to be ups, downs, twists, turns, and I just have to let it look however it freaking looks
Yeah.
and not try to figure out, right? Like, oh God, am I healing? Is it supposed to look like this? Like, am I doing the right thing? And also, too, I have to say, if you're feeling this way right now, like, I don't think I'm ever going to get better. I don't think I'm ever going to feel normal again. This is so normal, but just because you feel this way now doesn't mean that this is your forever. I know that that's so hard. I think other questions that we're going to get to are going to help with this one too. But I think that's a sort of a good place to start. I don't know. What do you think, Annie?
Yeah, when I hear this question, I think about like I really felt like this for a period of time in my life. And I think that what it really comes down to, like what you said, I totally agree, but also a shift in your focus because I thought this way for so long. But once I started to like work on actually taking the steps to improve my anxiety and looking back at where I came from, it's really easy to say like, "Oh, is this ever gonna change?" and all of that, but when you're taking the steps and staying in the moment with that, I think that's, like, the best thing, and also just accepting anxiety is such a normal emotion, and it still pops up. I know it pops up for you and for me, like, it's
Mhm.
just something that happens, and so I think that's the biggest thing is just kind of changing the focus a little bit more, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. I love how you mentioned that staying in the present moment, and that's so hard. But when you stay in that present, right, and you're not trying to think your way into being recovered, things feel a lot easier and better that way. Not to say it doesn't take away the hard.
Exactly. Our second question is, what if I'm doing all the right things, but I'm still not seeing progress?
Ugh. I think I felt this way for years because you think of how long, right, some people struggle. And I mean, I struggled for well over a decade, and I truly thought and was convinced like I'm doing all the things right. Like, what the hell, right? Like, I'm going to therapy, I'm doing all the techniques, I'm practicing all the things, like, I'm doing the healthy stuff, and it doesn't feel like I'm making any progress. So I think we have to acknowledge, right, that progress doesn't always look how we expect it to look. So I think you might be showing up and really taking a lot of healthy action. You know, we can't do all the things right. I hate that. But you can be doing a lot of healthy things. You can be supporting yourself, really working on dropping that resistance to anxiety, doing exposures, like really allowing yourself to take anxiety with you and still feel stuck. Like that's a reality. But feeling that stuckness and feeling like things are hard doesn't mean that you're not healing and that the things that you're doing aren't helpful and quote working, even though I hate to use that term. So sometimes, right, the biggest shifts are happening underneath and we can't see it and we can't even really feel it. I think I can see this in so many different aspects of my life that like so much healing is going on. You know, of course, I just went through a separation and divorce. And when you're in it, you can't see the light at the end of the freaking tunnel. But so many shifts were happening where I couldn't see it and I couldn't even really feel it. Everything just felt so cloudy and a mess and just sort of all over the place. So I think you've got to keep showing up even when things feel pointless. Like, I hate to say that, but I think you do feel that way. Like, this is so pointless. Like, all my efforts are so pointless. This is so stupid. Like, nothing's getting better. Really, recovery requires that consistency, not perfection. So things will start to feel easier and you will have more willingness. And that's sort of a sign that things are working, right? When things do start to feel like, oh, I'm just going and doing and I'm letting myself feel and I'm letting it look however I do. And I have more willingness to take anxiety with me. But I have to throw a button here. Maybe you are doing too much. Maybe you are right. Like you doing all the right things is you doing just way too much shit. And this was me for a long time too, of like you're just throwing too much at it. You're practicing all the techniques, all the tools, all the routines. Like you're just doing too much. And I think you have to acknowledge if you're in this space because pulling back and doing less is going to be a whole lot more helpful. So this is a big thing that we talk about. I feel like in the community and in my program, like it's more about being and less doing. And that's a really hard thing to do because if you've been struggling for years and especially like a decade or more, you have that tendency to like do and fix and problem solve. But like pulling back on that stuff is really what helps you significantly.
Mhm, that's such a good point. Yeah, like, I know for my brain, it was like, "What can I do now? What exposure can I do?"
Yep.
But the biggest thing you've taught me and therapy taught me was, like, just do the things you enjoy, take it with you. Like, one of the biggest things for me was getting my nails done, and the first time I went, it was, like, 0 anxiety because I was just so amazed. The next time I went, I was freaking out, like, halfway through my manicure, And I think that kind of highlights, like, it is so not linear, and it doesn't mean, like, the second week you failed. It's about, "Hey, like, how did I work through that, really intense anxiety that second time?" And the more you go, like, now I can go and it's totally fine, and it is just a weird thing, but I think that's the biggest thing for me is, like, remembering there's gonna be some bumps here and there, and it doesn't mean you're failing.
Yeah. And too, I think I want to throw in here, right? Like support goes such a long way. So if you're somebody who feels like I have been struggling for years or even months, like, and I'm doing all the things, like I really am taking that healthy action and I just don't understand why I still feel so stuck and why things still feel really hard. Support, like, get some freaking support because a big part of what makes this journey so hard is doing it alone. And it is such an isolating experience anyway. Not many people, right, are advertising, "Hey, I also struggle with panic disorder and agoraphobia." So it can be incredibly isolating. And I think having a community of people is so insanely helpful. And of course, I have to say, right, like I just started my community and like there are almost 60 people in it. And it's insane to see like every day people are sharing, supporting, being compassionate, like helping to push each other and making these strides and having these wins that they didn't think were possible. So it's like you can't do it alone, nor should you have to. And support can be something that really helps things to click because it's not always that you don't know what to do or even how to do it. You just need some support to actually do the things.
Exactly, and accountability goes so far, and I know that was very true for me is, like, knowing there's people on the other side of things going like, "Oh, yeah, Annie's supposed to be doing this today," and I'm like, "I can't let them down," so
And a lot of people will say, like, Shannon, I don't want to let you down. Like, I do not want to have to come on here and say, I did not do that. And I'm like, good,
yes.
good. That's a good thing. Like, having that accountability is such a good motivator and a helpful thing. So I love it.
It's so true. So, our 3rd question is it normal to feel like I'm getting worse before I'm getting better?
Yes, yes, and yes. 1,000%. I think this is with so many things in life, right? And recovering from anxiety is no different. This is incredibly normal. Like, recovery often stirs up a lot of shit that you've been avoiding for a long time. And one of those big things is feeling, right? Like, this is 75% of people I work with will say and know, like, I've been avoiding for a long time my feelings, like, not even that I'm avoiding leaving the house or going to the grocery store or driving, like, I'm doing all that shit, but I'm trying not to feel it every turn. Like, I'm trying not to panic. I'm trying not to have the symptoms. A recovery, when you start facing anxiety, you start learning how to take it with you and make space for it, it can heighten those feelings and make things feel a lot more intense. And often people can see this as like, oh shit. And I say, do not go into that oh shit mode. Like, this is actually progress. It's actually a really good thing. And it means you're moving toward that discomfort instead of around it. Like, you're no longer like, how can I just bypass this? You are facing, and that's how healing happens. And feeling worse is a sign of growth. It's not a sign of, oh shit, I'm getting worse or like I'm doing something wrong. No, no, no.
Exactly, I know. That was something that took me so long to wrap my head around,
Hmm.
and then it's funny because I feel like the farther you get, it's almost like you're going into these situations that used to be really triggering, and you're like, "Okay, come on, like, let's do this, let's panic," or whatever, and so it is really crazy to, over time, see that shift of just being like, "Wow," it's like, I'm trying to make myself feel like this just to get it over with.
Yeah, yeah, I love that.
Yeah, so our next question, number 4, is there a point where I should just accept that this is my life now?
Shit. I think a lot of this stuff is mindset, right? Like, a lot of these questions are stemming from having a mindset that probably isn't super healthy and helpful. So I'm glad that these questions are being asked. No, I don't want you accepting that this is your life now. Like, F that. So, accepting anxiety is a part of recovery, right? Like, in my Panic to Peace program, like, and probably a lot of the listeners know, there are so many layers of acceptance. But one of the first things that we talk about in the program is you have to accept that this is where you're at right now. But cultivating that acceptance isn't, I'm going to let it define me. I'm going to let it define my future, the rest of my life. Like, this is just it. There's a big difference between saying, well, heck, this is just who I am now, in a hopeless way versus saying, I'm learning to live alongside anxiety while I heal. That is massively different. So I think kind of we get into this space where we claim defeat almost of like, I kind of just give up, right? Because things do feel really hard. It is incredibly hard. And we get into that space where we're like, well, this is just it, right? Like, I'm going to struggle with this always. And I know I got into that space more than once. Like, we're human. It's going to happen, but you can't give up and you can't accept that just because this is where you're at right now, that this is always how things are going to look. Better days are going to come. And like we talked about, a couple of questions ago, a lot is happening underneath the surface that you can't see. And you really have to just have some blind faith that, like, shit is happening and healing is happening even when it doesn't feel like it is.
Yeah, and it's such a hard thing when you're really in the thick of it to try to comprehend life without that or life with decreased anxiety. I think it's kind of like imagining what it's like to have a kid before you have one. It's like you just really can't fully understand until you get to the other side of that. So, yeah, I think it's just one of those things of like sort of like a trust the process, as cheesy as it sounds, but it really does just get to a point where it's not everything once you do the steps and put in the time and the work, so
Yeah, kind of what you were saying too, though. Oh my gosh, it makes me think. I think it's almost really scary to think of what life will look like without anxiety being at the forefront. And that is scary. Like, I used to have that thought often of, okay, if this is not going to take up so much space in my life, is my life gonna look like? Like, I'm actually gonna have to do some shit, like, that I wanna do and that's important to me, but, like, oh my god, like, I'm not gonna have this sort of excuse anymore of, like, "Well, I can't go, I can't do that because of anxiety." Like, I'm not gonna have a reason to say no to things. So, I think that piece can be scary too, especially if you're somebody who's been carrying this disordered anxiety for so long. Like, it does sort of become a part of your identity because you've really attached to it. I know I did. And I kind of thought, God, what if this isn't part of my identity? Like, I don't even know who that person is. And I think that can be really scary to think about how you're going to change and evolve. But I always say this, I would not take that Shannon ever, ever over the Shannon I am today. So it's like, it is scary, but it's going to be so incredibly beautiful when you do develop that healthy relationship. Like, it's 1,000% worth all of it.
it's so true. It's like the most magical feeling ever when you realize you're kind of coming out on the other side of it, and I do think a big part of the healing process, kind of like how you said, there's a lot of internal work that's happening that you might not realize. I think one of those things is your body kind of, like, preparing you to be able to just do these things and, like, have this new life pretty much where it's like you can just move through the world a lot more freely, so it really is just one of the coolest things, and I was one of those people where I was like, "That's never gonna be me," but it's really cool to see it happen, so
Yeah, for sure.
yeah. So, question number 5 is, how do I stop comparing my journey to others who seem further along?
We were just talking about this in my community literally yesterday. So it is funny because there are people in my community, which it makes me so happy. There are people who are a bit further along in their recovery. They've maybe taken my Panic to Peace program. They have a lot of skills, knowledge, and they've been applying it. And so they are what you might see as being further along. Although I hate to say that because I think we're all healing and working through shit constantly. But there are people who you might see as being a little bit further along. There are people who are kind of in the middle there. Like, they've done some work and they have a lot of knowledge too. Then there are people who are like, I have no idea. Like, I just showed up here, Shannon, and what you said in your free class resonated with me. I've never heard, like, learn how to take it with you, right? We don't have to manage it. And they're like, I want to learn how to do that. So there are people at so many different sort of places. And also within that, like, within how much knowledge you have about anxiety and how much work you've done with it already, there's also those layers of life experiences and your access to support and help. And so everyone's at different places for so many different reasons. So it makes sense, right? We're human, we compare. This is like, we do this with so many things in life. But we have to acknowledge, right? Comparison really steals a lot of our peace and a lot of our joy and a lot of our presence. So, acknowledging just what I was saying, right? Everyone's recovery looks different because we all have different histories, different experiences. different fears and triggers. And just because somebody seems further along doesn't mean that they've necessarily had it easier or that they're doing it, quote, better. That's something we look at too. And we compare ourselves to other people and we're like, well, they're further along. They're doing something better, right? They have something that I don't know. No, they just have been doing the work a little bit longer. There's more, maybe they've had more time, right, to have that work sort of developing underneath the surface. But that doesn't mean, right, that they're doing it better or that they know more than you. Like I say, we all have so much inherent wisdom and knowledge. And it's just, you've got to sort of take off all these layers that you've put on top of that and uncover all that. So I think a big piece here is you've got to develop the awareness when you are in that comparative mode and just recognizing, oh shit, I'm doing that thing,
Yeah.
right? And like, we're not going to go down that road and we're going to stay in our own lane and we're going to focus on what we're doing right now and the small steps and the small wins. And your journey is not less valid or meaningful just because it doesn't look like somebody else's. So, just that awareness and that self compassion, oh, changes so, so much.
I love that so much, and it immediately makes me think of when I took Panic to Peace. I took Panic to Peace with Hannah, who's been on the podcast before. She's so amazing, and she made so much progress in such a short amount of time, and I remember being like, "Oh, man, like, why am I here and she's there?" But then I think the biggest and most helpful shift that I made was, we have these thoughts of like, "Is this possible?" and all that sort of stuff, and I think once I instead looked at it as, another sign like, hey, this is something that is possible to overcome. And instead, kind of shifting your focus onto that, like, this is another person who's overcome this. Here's another person. And I think that was really, really helpful for me because it kind of gave me the idea like, okay, if Hannah can do this, if this person can do this, why would I be any different? And so that was really helpful for me, like, when I was kinda struggling with these thoughts.
Oh, dang, Annie, I'm so glad that you shared that because that is so powerful. Like looking at it through the lens of this is what's possible, not I'm behind. What am I doing wrong? Like I clearly suck, right? And this happens in every round in Panic to Peace. There are some people like my last group, we got on the check in call, our 4 week check in after the group ended, and like 10 people shared where they're at. And I was like, holy shit. I mean, like, I was even shocked sitting there of like, whoa, like these people made incredible progress in a very short amount of time. I mean, from the time you start the program, right, it's 10 weeks, and then the check in is usually 4 to 5 weeks after. So we're talking at least 15 to 16 weeks, but it just goes to show how much rewiring and how much progress you can make in a really short amount of time. And it's like, with Hannah specifically, she did make a shit ton of progress in a short amount of time. It seemed that way, I should say. Like she struggled for years. And so it's like we always want to look at things like, oh, that person's doing better than me, or like, what are they doing that I'm not doing? And if you just remind yourself, like, I got to stay focused on me and the steps I'm taking, and that's how I'm going to get to the place that I want to be, and you might not want your life, right, to look like Hannah's or somebody else's. Like, you might want your life to look completely different. And so you've got to really, I hate that saying, but like stay in your own lane and focus on
Yeah.
you. And that's what's going to help you to get to where you want to be much more quickly and without it being so hard.
That's exactly it. Okay, so our next question, I have to preface by saying, I remember, I think it was like 2 years ago or something when I was really in the thick of it and you had a Q&A on your Instagram. I'm pretty sure I asked you this, and it's just so funny to me because looking back now, it's like, oh my gosh, like I just know Shane's probably like reading my question, but it's very real. This is a very real question. So it is, how long does recovery actually take?
This is one of the questions I get most often, and
Yeah.
I really wish I could give this, like, packaged answer, like, it's not simple, but let me say, right, recovery doesn't follow a set timeline. Like, this is one of the things we start off in the program too in Panic to Peace is, like, you gotta throw away any timeline that you have. Of course, ideally, I would love everyone to come out of the program and be, like, exponentially further along and, like, feel really good, but we can't set a timeline on recovery. It really depends on your experiences, how long you've been struggling and how much consistency you've had with supporting yourself and developing that healthy relationship with anxiety and like so many other factors. Like we're humans, we're complicated. There's so many layers to this. I always tell people we're not just working to create a healthy relationship with anxiety, we're working to create a healthy relationship with you. And that's sometimes what people have not had really any practice with is like they don't really know what is supportive for them. They don't even really know themselves very well. And so connecting back to who you are and developing that relationship is hard and it takes some time. So I guess what I can tell you is that it takes significantly less time when you stop, fighting anxiety, you stop trying to get rid of it all the time, you stop trying to not feel, and you actually start working with anxiety rather than against it, that's when things really will start to speed up. Like, and you'll feel like, okay, anxiety's showing up. Here we go again. And like panic showing up. But I know I'm being consistent, right? I'm actually letting myself feel, and this is a part of the process. And for myself, people ask me this all the time like, how long did it actually take you to recover? And I tell people, I struggled for 15 years, right? So many of those years, I was just saying I was doing all the things, saying that I was taking all the healthy action, but I wasn't. I was just like putting band aids on everything, using all the coping mechanisms. I would say, I'm reading all the books. I'm, you know, I would take all the worksheets. I would do all the things that my therapist told me to do, but I wasn't actually doing the work to support myself. And I wasn't actually allowing myself to feel. So, in the span of 15 years of struggling, it honestly took me months to recover when I actually like started to learn, oh, I've got to let myself feel and I've got to actually let myself heal and I've got to actually let myself support myself. Like it took months compared to the years that I struggled. And that's, I would say, the norm that you see coming out of panic to peace. Like when people have said, I've struggled for, 5, 10, 15 years, it might take some time, right? It might take months, it might take a year, it might take a little bit more, but that's to be expected because you've had years and years of resistance and not letting yourself feel and not having the skills and abilities really to support yourself through it. So it makes sense that it's going to take some time. But yeah, I wish I could tell you, you know, okay, here's how long it will take you, Annie, and here's how long it will take you. But like, it doesn't work that way. And throwing away that timeline is going to help you so much to get there and not have it take so much time.
No, I totally agree, and I was like you where I also just was, like, absorbing all the information, and I thought that was me doing something, like, I have so many books that are completely annotated on everything, but at the end of the day, it's like, if you're not taking the steps, like, that's really where it counts, and I think the more frequently you do that, like, the quicker maybe it goes, but I remember being surprised for me personally once I really figured out, like, "Oh, I have to, like, actually do this." It was really only, like, 4 or 5 months after years of struggling that I was almost back to normal, which is crazy, but
Yeah.
I do agree. I think throwing out the timeline is what is best for sure because that can be stressful in itself.
Yeah, for sure.
Question number 7 is, what were the signs that you were truly getting better?
Probably the biggest thing I would say is I wasn't trying so hard anymore. I wasn't constantly looking for the fixes or obsessively checking in with how I was feeling or like obsessively checking in with how much anxiety am I experiencing, how much panic, and like creating all those stories. I was really just a lot more focused on living. And anxiety was definitely there and panic was definitely there sometimes, but it didn't stop me. Like I was actually letting myself feel it. I was actually letting myself, panic and go there and let it look however it looked. And, I think sort of the other big sign to me that I was getting better was that I had more willingness. Like I always tell people, there's no real good gauge, right? Like I hate even saying this, the worksheets and everything that are out there of like, let's rate
Ugh,
your
yeah.
anxiety and like how much anxiety are you experiencing or some of the journaling stuff. I just think it's so harmful because you can't gauge your healing and like whether or not you're getting better based off of how much you're feeling. Like I can't stress that enough. I wish that I could put that on a billboard. So a better indicator of am I getting better? Am I healing? Is do you have more willingness? Do you have more willingness to face anxiety, to bring it with you, to do the things that you want to do and just like let it come. And even that means even if, right, you don't feel ready, even if you don't feel capable or confident, like you're really focused on building a life that matters to you. And when you do that, anxiety just slowly fades into the background and it sort of just is like, all right, I'm going to be in the back seat. And like maybe it pops in sometimes, but you're like, absolutely not. You're not driving. You're not even in the passenger seat. Like, stay back there. So I think there are a lot of signs like that you are healing and getting better. But I think these two things, like you're no longer trying to force it, you're not trying so hard, you're more letting yourself be, and you've just cultivated more willingness because you've been taking healthy action consistently.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I don't even think I would add anything. That's, like, exactly what I would say too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I totally agree. So, I guess we'll move on to question number 8, which is, did you ever feel like giving up on recovery? And if so, what kept you going?
Oh my God. Over my 15 years, I remember so many times just wanting to be like, and I give up. And like, I mean, you all know me by now. Like, it's still, I will get so freaking emotional. But I can remember one time, and I've told this, being with my mom and saying, I can't do this anymore. And I think this is not talked about enough that, like, I was not suicidal. I did not actually want to die. But a big part of me was like, I can't do this anymore if this is what my life is going to look like. And I literally remember like my mom holding me. And I was probably, I don't know, 23, 24. Maybe I was older. I don't really remember, but I just remember looking at her and being so insanely sincere. Like, I am not doing this anymore. And I think I had a lot of those moments, like, and that's what makes recovery so hard is you really feel like, I just wanna give up, like, I don't want to try anymore because it's so hard and because you don't feel like you're really making any progress and, like, it's doing anything, and I think there were a lot of moments where I felt like, "What's the freaking point? What is the point in any of this?" But a big thing that kept me going, a couple of things. One was reconnecting with my values, like with my why. And this is something we talk about in everything that I teach, but like why I wanted to recover, like why I wanted to live, why I wanted to exist, right? And like freedom and adventure and so many things were incredibly important to me and I just stayed focused on that of like there's so much I want to do in life and I could even feel it back then and I know a lot of my students and clients feel this way too because I'll hear it and like having one-on-one sessions especially it comes out and they'll say there is so much I want to do in life. Like I have these big dreams. I have like these things that I used to do that I want to do again and their lives like the majority of people I work with, I would say everyone that I work with has like these big values of like freedom, independence, connection, like creation, like all these things. And it's like you've got to stay focused on that stuff. And the other big thing that I would say that kept me going when I felt like giving up was support. I say this all the time, and people will say, "Well, thank God you had your mom." Like, I don't really have anyone. And yes, thank God I had my mom. Like, she was an incredible support to me. But I still struggled for 15 years because my mom couldn't do it for me. Like, my mom couldn't do shit for me, but she was there, right? And that was incredibly helpful to have someone reminding me constantly, like a nagging past, "You're gonna get better, you can do this, like, your life isn't always gonna look like this," and I would be like, "I wanna strangle you, mom." But I didn't do it alone, like, whether it was my mom or therapist or just friends and loved ones, like, I really learned the power of being vulnerable and actually sharing with people what the fuck was going on. Because for a
Yeah.
long time, I was that I'm fine, everything's fine, and nobody's gonna see how badly I'm struggling, and then I think at my lowest points, I was like, "And I'm done. I'm done, like, carrying this facade. I'm done putting on the face, like, I am really freaking struggling, and I need to lean on people," and the more I leaned on people, and the more I asked for support and actually received it, the easier things got, and the stronger I felt, and the more capable I felt, and the more willingness I had. So it's like, if you don't have that support, like you don't have, a mom like mine or whatever it is, I know it sucks. We don't always get the support that we need and deserve, but it exists, right? Like it exists, and you might just have to do a little bit of searching and like hard work to find that and to find that connection. But I cannot emphasize this enough, right? So, having a support system, having people who are going to cheer you on will help you so much to keep going, especially when shit feels incredibly hard and pointless.
Yes, I totally agree, and there's always ways to find that too. Like, I think I was in the mindset, like, this is just me, like, no one really understands, but, like, there are so many groups of people, like your group that you have and all sorts where you can just find people who understand and can help you with that, so I think that's really important too. Even if it's not family, like, there's always somebody, so
For sure.
question number 9 is, what helped you believe that recovery was possible when you didn't feel it?
I'm super honest about this. I never felt it. Like, I don't think I ever, until I really, like, I think probably was recovered, like, didn't feel like it was possible. So I think a big thing was I stopped needing to feel that 100% confident that recovery was possible and just staying focused on that next thing. Like, what am I doing right now? What am I doing today? What's this next way that I can support myself and take a healthy step? And those small steps, right? They build hope, they build momentum. And eventually, I dropped the wanting to convince myself, right? Wanting to believe. And it just started to feel true. So I want to share this because it was incredibly powerful to me. I heard this on a podcast the other day. This person being interviewed said, if something works, it doesn't require your belief because it proves itself. And I'm pretty sure it was Laura Day who said this, which she's great in a lot of ways. But I was just like, dang it. Like, that is so true. Like, you don't need to believe it if something is possible. And just about everything is freaking possible. So it's like, we don't need to convince you. We don't need to perfect your belief in recovery. You don't have to convince yourself every day that you're going to get better. What matters is you keep showing up, even when it's hard, even when you have that like really overwhelming self doubt, because the healing will prove itself, especially on the days where you feel the furthest from it.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's so good. It's so true. And holding on to those little moments of like, see, this is possible, whether it is you go out and you do something really hard and you feel those emotions, and then you're like, hey, I did it though. That is what it's all about, really. So it's like holding on to that.
When people say that, I literally had to go back and I'm like, I need to hear that again. And I need to hear that again. And I just think it's such a powerful reminder of when we're up against hard things in life, anything, we want to believe, I'm going to get through this. It's going to get better. I'm going to be okay. And like, you don't need to convince yourself. Like, it's possible. You just need to stay focused on right now. And that's sometimes the hardest freaking thing to do.
It's so hard, but it is so possible. It's so hard to convey once you get to the other side of it too, because it's like, I know I've been there, but it's hard, but you can do it.
Yep.
Question number 10, is full recovery really possible, or will I always have some anxiety?
Yeah. Okay. So bold statement here, right? But like full recovery, 100% possible. Like 100%. That doesn't mean that you're never going to feel anxiety again because, like you said, right? It's an emotion. We all carry it. We all feel it. It serves a purpose. It's a protector. We need it. But it doesn't mean that anxiety is going to run your life. It doesn't mean it's going to stop you, continue to stop you, I should say, from doing things, from living fully, from chasing that joy and the things that you want. But panic, avoidance, constant fear, that disordered anxiety doesn't have to be a part of your norm anymore. So I think that's the difference. Like, you're going to have anxiety because that's a normal emotion, but it won't be that disordered kind that is screaming at you and like, you need to get out, you need to run, you can't handle this. So you can get to that place where anxiety is just a small part of your life and it's not a loud part of your life anymore. And that sort of happens honestly when you're least expecting it, when you're like, I'm doing all the things and it feels like nothing's working and like and nothing, and it just happens. And so I think if you're in this space where you're like, I just don't believe it, I want you to recognize a couple things. Like, that's fear, right? And fear is a protector too. Like, of course it's going to tell you this isn't possible, right? Like, this isn't you. You're different. Your journey is different. Like, you're not somebody who can recover. That's fear, right? And we just have to sort of call that out, recognize it for what it is, and let it be there, but continue to take the steps. And I would also nudge you, please listen to the recovery success stories on my podcast. Like, if you have not listened to those episodes, there are so many people who have shared their stories who I can't tell. There's going to be one, I don't know if it's going to come out before or after this episode, But Heather, she started my Panic to Peace program. And I always have, I'm very honest about this. I have like 2 to 3 people in the beginning who I can pick out instantly of being the people who are very hesitant, resistant, like skeptical, almost in that mindset of like, I want to prove that this is just another thing that's not going to work. And she started my program, and I'm sure you could think of somebody, Annie, right, in your program that had a similar mindset. And at first, like when I would come up against that, it would be like, oh shit. And now I know and I see that as such a beautiful thing because I know those people are in that space where like they are ready and willing and they will do anything to make it happen. And so you'll hear her story. I don't know if it's come out or if not, it will soon come out after this episode. But yeah, she started in the program as being like, this isn't going to work. I've tried everything. And she struggled for 20 plus years. And she is living now and like, just graduated, is now a therapist. It's just like mind blowing her journey. So it's like, you can be so skeptical. You can be so resistant. You can think this is not possible. I'm always going to be like this, blah, blah, and it will still happen. And I don't need to prove it to you, and you don't need to prove it to you. And so if you're like, I'm just needing some hope, I'm needing some inspiration, listen to those success stories because they are just so motivating and will help you so much to feel like, okay, other people can do this. I can do this too.
It's so true. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to listen to that episode, but gosh, it is just so true. And Shannon, I feel like me being on the podcast is like a good example of this because so we've been recording these podcasts together. Gosh, I think maybe like 2 years now was like the first
Yeah,
one, which is
it's
wild.
had to have been. Yeah.
But I will never forget the first podcast recording, like, I was panicking, like, if you go listen to that episode, I'm pretty sure I was having a panic attack during it, and, like, you should if you saw my desk, like, I had my fidget toys, had my ice water, I had, like, a granola bar, had all these things, and now it's just crazy because here I am, it's like, I literally rolled out of bed, I'm like, "Oh, yeah, whatever, I'm gonna talk to Shannon," and it's just, like and yeah, it's like I still get nervous because 'cause we're recording, but, like, I just feel like that is, like, proof, like, it is so possible, and, like, you don't have to think twice, and, like, yeah, I have nerves, but nerves and anxiety, it's like, you just don't think about it as much.
Yeah, and it's wild because, like, I think, 15 minutes before we hopped on, I was like, I never use the video for my podcast episodes, and I wanna start using the video, and so I was like, "Annie, heads up, like, I'd love to use the video," and I was like, "Oh my god, I'm throwing this at her 15 minutes before we're recording," but you are so much more comfortable, relaxed, like, it's just I mean, it's been wild to watch your journey, everyone's journey, like, I sit here sometimes and I'm just like, it doesn't feel real, like, when people will share their stories with me or send me the messages and I'm like, I get them, "You helped change my life," and I'm like, Did I really?" Like, it's just it doesn't feel real, but I think with these questions, right, I'm so glad that so many people ask these questions. These are such common questions that I get asked, but I really want you to shift your mindset, right? That's like sort of the intention behind this episode of like, I hope this has helped you just sort of shift your thinking a little bit and maybe drop so much problem solving and trying to fix and trying to make sure and convince yourself and like more just letting yourself be and having some blind faith. Like it's happening and it's happening sort of under the surface and I don't need to know. And I'm just going to stay focused on right now. And that will be so helpful.
Ah, yes.
Our next episode, I hope it doesn't is not this long in between them, but like I'm always excited to see like what people want us to talk about. And I just love these episodes so much. So thank you so much for coming on and joining me again. It was
I know, thank
awesome.
you for having me, it's always a good reminder for me too, it's like, these questions remind me we're all so resilient.
Yeah, for sure. I hope you loved this episode of A Healthy Push. If you have, I'd be so grateful if you could leave me a rating and review wherever you're listening to this podcast. This helps people to find the show and get the support they need. And if you know someone who could use a little push, be sure to share this episode with them. And for even more support, head over to ahealthypush.com for show notes and loads of tips, tools, and inspiration to help you on your recovery journey. I'll see you next week.